Senator Cotton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses for appearing today. I've been working on the Illicit Cash Act now since last summer, and I want to thank Senator Jones, Senator Warner, Senator Rounds, as well as the chairman and ranking for their assistance, as well as some of the other senators not on this committee, like Senator Graham and Senator Feinstein on the Judiciary Committee, who held a hearing on this topic yesterday. I also want to thank the Bank Policy Institute and the Financial Accountability Corporate Transparency Coalition for their support for the draft bill we've introduced. The bill includes an overhaul of our outdated anti-money laundering laws, and most of it was done months ago, but we still have only released a draft, even after consulting with more than 50 different stakeholders like privacy groups and law enforcement, the FBI, FinCEN, and business groups, because we still want more feedback. We do expect to introduce a final version later this summer, but we look forward to hearing feedback and input from our colleagues here in the Senate, as well as the organizations who are represented here at this hearing and many other representatives of the business community. We need a beneficial ownership registry for national security purposes. I have heard that repeatedly from the FBI, from the Department of Justice, from the intelligence communities I oversee on the Intelligence Committee. It can help not only things like terrorism, but human trafficking and other crimes. I am also very mindful, however, of the potential burden that such a registry could impose on businesses, especially small businesses. That's why I've made it a priority over the last year to try to find ways to minimize those burdens while also ensuring that our registry helps meet the needs of law enforcement and our intelligence communities. I think it's better that we work now to create a best-in-the-world system if a registry is going to be inevitable, rather than wait around to have a system that ultimately will hurt small businesses. That's why we've taken many steps to include sensible provisions that will alleviate the potential burdens on small business. First, the beneficial ownership registration will be attached to things that businesses are already doing, like creating or renewing their entities at the state level. Second, there'll be no additional annual reports required. After filing a registration, companies don't have to do anything more unless there are changes to the company's ownership. Third, there will be exemptions to the registry that are self-effectuating. Things like nonprofits, churches, and other regulated entities won't have to prove that they are exempt. They will simply be exempt. Fourth, going to the points that Senator Jones was making, there will be a cure provision. Everyone will get due process, which should have the benefit of also getting quality data into the database. So if there is any kind of minor discrepancy in a company's beneficial ownership registry, that company will have the opportunity to address and correct that issue. That also means that they won't face the risk of certain penalties without the ability to correct inadvertent or good faith, honest mistakes or errors. Fifth, there'll be an ombudsman-like process for any business who has questions or complaints about the process, as well as a semi-annual report to Congress summarizing Inspector General's activities related to beneficial ownership. Sixth, strict protocols for who can access the beneficial ownership registry will be adopted. We've also included very severe penalties, even prison time, for the improper disclosure of any company's beneficial ownership data. Seventh, we'll have a clear definition of what it actually means to be a beneficial owner, clearer than the bill that just passed the House Financial Services Committee. Eighth and final, will be easier for companies to open bank accounts. Opening business bank accounts ought to be easier than it is today, and it will be once companies or once financial institutions can access the high-quality beneficial ownership registration. So I'd like to ask the witnesses, do these changes make it easier to get a beneficial ownership registry up and running with minimal disruption and also minimal long-term burden to businesses, especially small businesses? We'll start with Mr. Baer and just go down the panel.
Yeah, yes, Senator, I think they absolutely would. And I should hasten to add, although the focus today has been the beneficial ownership portion of the bill, the rest of the Illicit Cash Act is extremely important and we believe extremely well considered and is a very, I think, innovative and thoughtful approach to a lot of very difficult issues. But with respect to the beneficial ownership provisions in particular, we believe this is a very well thought through approach to mitigating any potential costs and burdens and yet still getting law enforcement and national security the information they need.
Thank you. Ms. Herney?
Well, what you've articulated does sound like it would address some of our concerns. We'd want to see that statutory language and really want those protections clearly in the statute for small business owners.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and thank you for your leadership on this and your colleagues. We do think that the concerns and the issues that have been added to the bill improve the bill and does help to strike that appropriate balance between privacy, ease of business, and making sure that law enforcement has what it needs.
Thank you. So my time has expired. As I said, this is draft legislation. We want to work together. Especially we want to work with small businesses. Everyone on this panel, no matter what state we come from, represent thousands of small businesses like pizza shops and dry cleaners and lawn care companies that have very legitimate reasons to need these kind of entities. We want to find ways to separate them out with the minimal burden while also stopping terrorists and drug traffickers and deadbeat dads and people trying to hide assets before they get a divorce and all of the other malicious reasons that people use these entities. So we'll appreciate your continued input and feedback on the legislation. Thank you.